had for you, and it's really one that you answered in your documentary, is why should we be concerned about this stuff?
Well, their involvement in January 6th is not enough reason for concern. The fever pitch of prophecy, of spiritual warfare, of political hostility, of demonization of their enemies, the fever pitch of all that charismatic spirituality that fed into January 6th is even worse now. And the leaders who helped inspire, people like Che On, people like Jenny Donnelly and Lou Engle and Matt Shea, the leaders who helped inspire that spirituality and mobilize for January 6th are more popular today than they were in the lead up to January 6th. They have suffered no negative consequences for their involvement that day, right? They've become heroes for their involvement in that day in some circles. And so we are barreling towards another election in the United States, another presidential election, where, frankly, it's all on the line. Democracy is on the line, right? And Donald Trump is in his very constitution, in the composition of his character, is incapable of accepting defeat. And he was willing to push things to January 6th in 2020 because he wanted 4 more years in the White House. But now he could go to jail if he loses this election.
Yeah.
Go to prison. So the stakes are so high on both sides of this election, and this the animated, angry spirituality that is also hopeful, that is also built on prophecies, that is centered on this conception of Christian hegemony and Christian supremacy, is rapidly spreading into more and more Christian communities. More and more Christians are crossing that line from Christian nationalism into Christian supremacy. And Jenny Donnelly and Che On, Lou Engle, Sean Foyt, all these people are instrumental in radicalizing Christians in America around the Seven Mountains, around these prophecies, around the Her Voice movement. And Trump has taken on as I said, a kind of quasi-messianic quality in these communities and in their prophecies. So I think we should all be paying very close attention to this. We should all be concerned because we are coming up again on the very, very real possibility of Christianity-inflected political violence that could be far worse than January 6th and far more widespread. And I'm not saying that's inevitable, right? I'm not prophesying about the future. I'm just saying all the ingredients that gave us January 6th are there in greater quantities right now.
Yeah.
And I think we need to be prepared to defend democracy, defend it peacefully, defend it non-violently, defend it through democracy, through democratic means. But I don't think anybody should be sitting on the sidelines. I think we all need to figure out, and I say this as a scholar, right? I'm not an activist. I'm not somebody who loves to show up at protests and be in the streets. But I think we all need to figure out, where are our bright lines in a democracy? What is the thing that, if that line got crossed, you would go into the streets to protest? Because I think some of those bright lines are going to get crossed in the next 8 to 12 months. And I think we need to be ready to stand up for pluralism, for democracy, for the rule of law, for fair and free and reality-based elections, because there's going to be a lot of lies that are told if Donald Trump is declared the loser of this election. And I think there's a very real possibility of conflagrations even if he wins the election, right? So there aren't very many scenarios in which we get out of this election season unscathed. But I think that we need to be playing the long game of defending American democracy and defending pluralism, defending the rights and equality of everyone.
Yeah, well said. And obviously, I agree with you. I mean, I think this is one of the top, biggest issues and stories of our time right now. And it does feel, just from, kind of keeping an eye on, or keeping a finger on the pulse of what's going on, it does feel like there's practice for something. It's like dress rehearsal. Like, we have these "don't mess with our kids" rallies. It just feels like a dress rehearsal for what they want to do in the fall.
Yes.
And how they can galvanize and get people out in the streets, and hopefully they're peaceful. But last thing I just want to do is let you maybe, tell us a little bit about your upcoming book, what the title of it, where can people pre-order it, and why should they do that? What are they going to learn?
So my book is called The Violent Ticket by Force, the Christian movement that is threatening our democracy. It's all about the origins of the New Apostolic Reformation, the context of these non-denominational charismatic networks and how the NAR became what it is today, who were the key leaders, and then really focused on January 6th and how it was that you had all this Christian spirituality blended in with an attempted insurrection, and what role, the central role that the NAR leaders played in that. It's available for pre-order now on any platform, the official publication date is September 24th, but if you pre-order it, you can have it in August. So we're trying to get it out before the election. I realize it's really important information for people to have. I also, as you mentioned, have done a documentary called Spiritual Warriors. It's 25 minutes. It's on YouTube. All about these NAR leaders in January 6th. And then if you if that whets your appetite, we also put together a podcast audio documentary series called Charismatic Revival Fury. It's about 7.5 hours of a lot of it is the voices of NAR leaders themselves around January 6th, but also kind of trying to trace these threads and understand how these networks came to be and then how they got so radicalized.
Wow. Fascinating stuff. I watched the documentary. It was great. I'm going to listen to the podcast. I'm definitely going to pre-order your book because obviously I'm interested in this stuff. But thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. And this was so edifying and helps me so much in my research. So I appreciate you, reaching out to me and taking the time to set this up, and follow you on Twitter. I know you're on Twitter, and check out the Institute for Islamic, Christian, and Jewish Studies as well. So thanks again.
Thank you, Dominic. Great talking to you.